What's up, guys? Welcome to the Ant-Man channel. It is Thursday, the 21st of August, 2014, and I am your host, as usual. And I got an article here from WND.com. It's a front page article by Joe Kovacs, published 17 hours ago. Armed and dangerous, black cop kills white man, media hide race. Limbaugh, black person can never be the oppressor. Oh no, never. And you're a racist if you think so. Salt Lake City police officer shot and killed 20-year-old Dylan Taylor outside of a convenience store August 11, 2014. Tragic. Absolutely tragic, man. There's a video here too, by the way. If you want to come look at it. What a shame, man. This guy's young, looks like I don't want to say a good person, but he looks well-meaning. When you look at all the scumbags that the police are shooting, that the media tends to want to hype up, they're total scumbag thugs, man. And when I say thug, I don't mean that in a good way. I mean that in a way that I feel bad, pitiful, and like I disdain it. I disdain that whole Tupac Biggie culture, dude. I really do. I think it's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. While national news media continue to focus on race in Ferguson, Missouri, where a white police officer shot and killed an unarmed black teenager, they apparently don't think a similar case in Utah with the races reversed is that newsworthy. Well, yeah, because they don't have any political agenda to push behind it. You see, I'm going to use the word idiot here. Idiots out there that want to make this whole issue about race are going to let the politicians in the White House and the corrupt bureaucrats win. You're letting them win when you make it about race. It's not about race. It's about addressing the whole bad cop issue that we have today. It's a bad cop issue. It's not a race issue. So, but it only matters when black people die, I guess, in America. White people, Mexican people, they can die and it's not newsworthy. And this is brainwashed, people, and if you're gonna join the political correct crowd, go ahead, vote Democrat, because you're you're an idiot and you're just. I mean, I could quote LBJ, but I'd rather not. Let's see. Police in Salt Lake City are continuing their probe into an August 11th shooting outside of a 7-Eleven convenience store when a black police officer, whom local media are referring to as not white, shot and killed 20-year-old Dylan Taylor, who was unarmed at the time, according to his supporters. Police Chief Chris Burbank said the entire incident was captured on the body camera of the officer who shot Taylor. You will see on camera the actions of everyone involved, including up to the point where our officer utilizes deadly force and his response thereafter, Burbank told reporters. He said the video, along with the officer's identity, will be released at the appropriate time, adding it could be days, weeks, or months. It's unbelievable. So they have a video here from KUTV's dramatic video of the shooting. Looks like CBS. It would be wholly inappropriate to take the most vital piece of evidence that we have and put it out there to the public prior to the officer having some due process, he said. The chief indicated he has personally viewed the footage, but would not comment on whether he believed the shooting was justified. Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because there's a guy here holding up a sign and it says militarized, and it says, when did this become this? And the picture is of like two old school, like, Andy Griffith type cops, and it says where it says become this, that shows like SWAT team looking cops, and it's true, right? Isn't that the issue at hand? Isn't that more important than what color the guy's skin is that got shot? Because I don't think the cops care whether you're black, white, Mexican, alien, green, purple. I don't care. They don't either. And it's all about the mentality that they have nowadays. And if anything, thank you, Tupac and Biggie culture out there, that you make everything about being against the police. Because now the police are against us. Because now they have gotten this mentality that it is them against us now. So thank you. Thank you to all you stupid gangbanger mentality morons out there that want to make everything about being anti-government, being rebellious, being this person that doesn't give a damn about law or anything like that, because that is why the cops are like this now. Because it's this whole mentality where it's like they think that we're against them, and now they have to use their power in a corrupt way to, because they're living in fear, right? That is ultimately what it is, right? They're living in fear because they know that these gangbanger punks don't have any respect for them, so they're just gonna shoot everybody. Because that's the answer to all of our problems, isn't it? Shooting people and killing people. I guess it is. It would be wholly inappropriate. Okay, I already wrote that. I do not send officers out to use deadly force. That's never our intention. In fact, our policy specifically says that is the last resort. He said, the officers in this circumstance did not set out to use deadly force. We have an unfortunate incident where Dylan Taylor lost his life. Okay, that wasn't descriptive at all. The cop seemed to dance around that as much as he could. So the guy's name who's holding the sign is Scott Simon. He speaks through a blowhorn during a protest about the police shooting of Dylan Taylor in Salt Lake City, Monday, August 18th, 2014, which was 3 days ago. Simons is the father of Kelly Simons, who was shot and killed by police in 2013, courtesy of Salt Lake City Tribune. Burbank also refused to say whether Taylor had a gun, but the victim's family and friends maintain he was unarmed. It didn't make sense to me when I first heard everything, and they tried to say he had a gun. Taylor's friend Aaron Swanenberg told the Salt Lake City Tribune, I knew Dylan, he never packed a gun. And if he did, who cares? You have the right to bear arms. Don't we have a Second Amendment in this country? Don't you have the right to have a gun if you want? I mean, that doesn't justify getting shot. He had a gun. Ooh, ooh. We just need to create boogeymen in this country to create these politically correct morons, man. I mean, it's just to be useful idiots that just submit to authority and they just follow everything that the PC crowd or the politicians say. It's just, it boggles my mind that people are that sheep-like. You know what I mean? That's sheep-like. You just, bah, bah. It's literally just walking around, baaing, listening to the guy who has the suit on and then just worshipping him. It's just, use your brain, people. What works and what doesn't work. You cannot trust anybody, in my honest opinion. Why? Because we're all inclined to that dark deceitfulness of the heart. And what you got to understand is that you need to seek truth, man. Don't base truth off of what some guy believes. Go and pursue it for yourself so that you know what you believe, why you believe it, and why it's the truth. Because when people say, when they try to demonize guns, you got to understand that they're talking to you like you're 2 years old. That they got to make something like this is pepper spray. They'll be like, this is pepper spray, woohoo! And then you have to be scared of it. You have to have this stereotype that surrounds pepper spray now, that it's, whenever you see it, it means that somebody's going to get killed now. And it's just stupid. Guns protect us from tyrants, from ISIS, from all terrorists, from all people who want to just murder people. If there was some gangbanger thug punk that wanted to come into my house and take us all out right now, it would be wise to have a gun in the house so that you can protect yourself, right? So guns are not an evil in and of themselves. The evil comes from the dark desires and ideas that come from the mind and the heart of a man. That's it. How is that hard for you to understand out there, really? Police said officers were responding to a report of a man waving a gun around. Wow. When officers arrived, they found 3 men leaving the convenience store, with one later identified as Taylor, reportedly matching the description of the person reported in a 911 call. Witnesses say Taylor was wearing headphones at the time and may have been trying to pull his pants up when he was gunned down. He doesn't look like the gangbanger type to me. He doesn't look like he's trying to portray a gangbanger. But let me tell you guys something out there. Men out there, you guys that are supposed to be men. Don't fall into that default category that I see everybody falling into. It's like, oh, when I become a mature, and I'm old enough, and say you're like in high school or whatever, don't do that. Don't go into that crowd where everybody is having like this gangbanger trip, dude. Don't do that. Why am I seeing so many young men that they grow up and then they become that? Why? You don't want to follow the crowd, believe me. You don't want to follow what's trendy right now. These are the dumb zombie morons that are perpetuating all of the stuff that's going on in this country. They're the ones that are looting over there in Missouri right now and ruining small businesses, and in the name of racial, violence. And that's not helping your economy at all. You know what I mean? Like, that's not helping anybody at all. You're just looking for an excuse to act like a stupid thug, and that's gonna hurt everybody. At the time of his shooting, court documents show Taylor had a $25,000 bench warrant for a probation violation in connection with felony robbery and obstructing justice convictions. Wow. By Marissa Martinez, whose sister used to date Taylor, told the Salt Lake City Tribune that Taylor had turned over a new leaf. He was trying to do better for himself, and this is what happens to him, Martinez said. It was really heartbreaking. Regarding the race of the officer, Utah's Deseret News reported the police chief saying the officer is not white. The Salt Lake City Tribune noted the officer involved was not white. Because if you say he's black, that's politically incorrect. And it'll offend people. You know how people and try not to offend people these days is like everybody's goal, right? You gotta make sure you don't offend anybody and try to avoid making people cry. You know what I mean? It's sad. Come on, people. Saddle up, man. For real, saddle up over there. The Taylor case was examined Wednesday by talk radio host Rush Limbaugh, who said, "Note the similarities to the Michael Brown story in Missouri, except in this case there's no evidence the victim actually committed a crime." And like I just said, man, come look at this guy for yourself. He looks like a well-meaning guy. Looks like a nice guy. But when you look at the Michael Brown, Trayvon Martins of the world, they're punks. They're punks. And they try to portray them when they're all young on the television. Like, oh, look at this young, innocent black guy. No, dude. No. You need to get your story straight. Michael Brown is a 6'4" mongoloid that robbed a convenience store before he even got shot. He's a punk. The guy was literally high when he got shot. He was high and got shot in the head, and he's... the sobering thing about when you die is that you either go to heaven or hell, man, and you better start to think about where you want to go right now. And if you live in America, man, you should think about those things, especially with what you see going on in the in the world, or even in our country in general. You should think about where your soul and where your soul is with God right now. Where is your conscience right now? What does all of this stuff, how does it affect you? Does it even bother you at all? Because if it doesn't bother you, there's something wrong with you. Because there's a lot of stuff that should be bothering you. Not to the point where you should be a wreck or a paranoid, schizophrenic, guy where you're just kind of like afraid of everything. No, it should bother you in a way that it grieves you. It should be like, man, there is an actual calling for repentance in this country when you see that all these things are falling apart. Culturally, politically, economically, everything's falling apart. But nobody, in the family and marriage and all that stuff, dude, it's all going to hell these days. And I would be wondering myself, if I wasn't saved in the times that I'm living in right now, whether I am right with God. That's a very key, important thing, because this guy, he didn't know he was going to get shot and killed by a cop that day. And I hope that he was right with God. Michael Brown, on the other hand, obviously through the actions that young man was committing, he's a grown man. He's 18 years old. He should know that he is accountable for his actions. And he got what he deserved, I guess, right? Not really, because there's no evidence for that. I know a lot of people say that this and that, but the fact of the matter is that cops shouldn't be shooting people like that. This isn't Judge Dredd. This isn't China. This isn't North Korea. You have to have due process in this country because you have rights that nobody can take away. So the murder of Michael Brown wasn't justified, but what kind of person was he? Somebody who was going around asking for it. And what I say about that is that it's not a race issue, it's a cop issue. And the whole thing about this is that, man, when you see this kind of stuff and the way the media portrays trying to protect certain people and trying to give other people this licentiousness and this type of like special treatment as if they're special and everything's great with them and everyone else is wrong in itself. That right there is a call to we need to correct that, because that's a tremendous evil. We cannot do that. We cannot favor one race over another. We cannot let a race have a word that they're allowed to use and no one else is allowed to use it. That's not allowed to happen in this country. You cannot be afraid to speak your mind, and you cannot be afraid to kind of rock the boat here in a way, but be respectful about it, because we need to be sensitive toward each other, right? We need to have a little bit of compassion toward our issues and what different things come our way when we are a certain race or whatnot. I know there's racists out there. You're not going to fix that on your own. There's going to be evil now until the day you die, and then after. You're not going to stop the things that are going on in this world, but you can help it. You know what I mean? You can help where you're at, shine a little brighter. And that's the difference. Everybody thinks that there's someone else doing the important job when you're just doing this or whatever. But that's not true. No, there is nobody else doing the job that you're probably thinking that you should do. There is nobody else doing it. And then when we find out who's in charge, oh, it's the bad guys. I wonder why. Because we aren't watching anything around here. So the Taylor case was examined Wednesday by talk radio host, and he pretty much said that there was no evidence. And pretty much he noted Taylor didn't resist, he didn't hit the cop, he didn't try to flee, and yet he was shot dead. Can you imagine that? He also pointed out how most news accounts did not specify the race of the police officer who killed Taylor. They are referring to the officer as other than white, which reminds me of George Zimmerman becoming only the second known white Hispanic, a title given by the New York Times. They can't wait to mention the racial aspects in St. Louis, Limbaugh continued. They don't talk about the racial aspects in the shootings in Chicago, and there aren't any racial aspects here in Salt Lake City. So Rush Limbaugh, whether you like him or not, I guess he's right there talking about it. There's a mindset out there, and the way it works in situations like this is only people of color can be victims. A white person can never be a victim. It just can't happen. That's not permitted. That's not allowed because it isn't the case. The whites are the oppressors. They're the majority. This is a liberal worldview. And whoa. And if you don't believe me, I just said that on my own, and that was literally the next sentence that was on here. That's not permitted. That's not allowed because it's not the case. The whites are the oppressors. The majority, they're the majority in the liberal worldview. Every majority is an oppressor, whether they're white or whatever. They're all oppressors. The minority is always the victims, and the victims are with whom we should always sympathize, no matter what. And you know what this all comes down to? Votes. Because the more the left caters to the needs, and they think that they're for the little man, for the 99%, for the guy at the bottom of society, they think they're for them, but in reality they use them to get their own political agenda through. Why do you think they're letting why do you think that they're letting the immigrants in for free? Because they're going to vote Democrat, because they're going to get all the free benefits that Americans and veterans don't get. And you got to understand that this is the way liberals and Democrats and progressives have been for the last 100 years. They have thought that it is their duty to do that. And whether Woodrow Wilson was really duped or whether he had a guilt trip or whatever, he understands that whole mentality. LBJ, who was next, he understood that whole mentality perfectly well, where you know his quote. And that is the reality of it. The KKK came from the left. They didn't want the blacks to fight for their civil liberties. Do you see how this all ties up? Is that the Democrats and the left, they try to use the minorities against themselves. Really, that's what it is. They try to say that they're for the little guys, but they're actually against you. But they try to make it seem like they cater to you and that they care about your needs, but in reality, they're making you poorer. They're making you dependent on the government to make the government bigger and more out of control. And then you're just you're a useful idiot in the words of Joseph Stalin. So there you go. That's the gist of it all. The oppressors are the whites. The oppressors are the guys that are rich. They're the ones. And then when we hear the history lessons that we get today in the public schools, it's all about guilt tripping the white guys. It's all about saying that we stole land from people. And Dinesh D'Souza, who wrote the book America, he is so right when he says that the left, they have rewritten history to make you feel like a victim in your own country and that you don't deserve the rights that the founding fathers wrote down in the Constitution for you to inherit. And that's the big problem here, is that we don't look at the Constitution and feel secure about it because they've taken it out of the equation. And if you think about it, the Constitution is what protects us. We wouldn't even have the liberty that we have with unless that thing was written, which is the greatest thing that was ever written since Magna Carta. And you cannot. I mean, it's mind-boggling that people give up their liberties so easily because of a political correctness that comes from the politicians at the top that only care about their special interests. It blows my mind. They're your servants. Where it's not us, it's not the other way around. So it's about willpower, people. It's about whether you're willing to take on these responsibilities and these duties to be a statesman and a citizen in your country and to be informed. But that's asking a little too much for most of the guys out there who are just partying it up and whatever. They're all oppressors. The minority's always a victim. Let's just get back into this and finish it. No skin. Where was I? No matter what, and the victims are permitted to do anything precisely because they're a minority. And I'm talking about in numbers, not skin color. They're outnumbered. The evil majority does horrible things to the minority, and so the minorities, be it skin color or numbers, are always victims, and so anything they do is justified, and we must try to understand the rage. That's what I get. That's the new tolerance of today, is that if you get angry and you start to become violent, then you're right. Because you're offended and you have the right and you're justified by your anger that you can, you know what I mean? Everyone's like, oh, he's just mad because somebody offended him. So let's be on his side. No, in reality, that's not what's really the case here. But in the current climate in the United States, a black person can never be the oppressor and a white can never be the victim. And that's how you have a corrupt or perverted news business in Salt Lake City, refusing to identify a black cop who may have shot an innocent person. That destroys the whole picture we've been creating here for centuries. That could totally destroy the image that we've been trying to concoct. Oh man, that could blow it sky high. That's just not supposed to happen. And so they come up with these things to hide it or to not reference it at all. Taylor's aunt, Gina Thane, told the Deseret News that police know they killed an innocent kid. If in fact they actually produce a tape, it will show exactly what happened, Thane said. It will come out eventually. It will never bring Dylan back, though. Unbelievable. This is a tragedy, people. This is something this is what I'm saying. If things like this don't bother you, you're mentally ill. Your brain probably isn't even functioning anymore because you watch so much TV. That's really what's going on here. You're so depraved that you could probably watch an old lady get mugged in front of you and beat to death because it's none of your business. Because the guy that's probably beating the old lady in front of you probably has a reason to be that angry. You see how we have become to be behind evil and to disdain good and to hate innocence and want to destroy things like that. It's just, that's the culture, you guys. So let's just all gangbang and sag our pants down to our ankles and just be cool all day. God bless you guys and have a good day.